how unready they were. Yet 4 of these divisions were earmarked for the fight. 2 Scottish divisions would take part in the attack, 2 others would be in reserve. These last were completely untried units. They'd only had their rifles for 2 months. They'd only just landed in France. General Haig, who was to command them, said,
"I question the suitability of new army divisions for this duty on first landing."
Lord Kitchener told Haig,
He had decided that we must act with all our energy and do our utmost to help the French, even though by doing so we suffered very heavy losses indeed.
Goodbye, Piccadilly. Farewell, Leicester Square. London seemed a long way off now, and even the familiar paintwork of the buses was scarred and dulled by war. Upstairs and down, the rumors passed that a new weapon was to be used in the attack. Gas. Goodbye, Piccadilly. Farewell, Leicester Square. The place where Joffre wanted the British Army to fight was a dismal region, Luz, a shattered mining village. Slag heaps, derelict machinery, ruined cottages, the great twin pylons of what the army called Tower Bridge looming over all. Luz. There was something chilling even about the name. The hour drew near. Much depended on the gas, which would, it was hoped, make up for the shortage of guns and shells. Haig wrote,
"The greatest battle in the world's history begins today. Some 800,000 French and British troops will actually attack. An anxious night, wondering all the time what the wind would be in the morning."
Wondering what the wind would be. The prevailing wind blew towards the Germans. Would it prevail on the day? Captain Gold, the meteorological officer, joined Haig at his observation post that morning.
I went up to see Sir Douglas Haig, who came out with a light and saw the charts. This was about 3 a.m. on the morning of September the 25th. We looked at the charts, and I said the situation had changed as expected, but the wind had fallen lighter than had been expected. But it was still favourable. And Sir Douglas Haig asked me, "Well, now what do you advise?" And I naturally demurred and said that I thought that my job was restricted to telling him what the conditions were expected. And he said, "Well, somebody's got to make the decision." And I said, "Well, in view of all the conditions, I think it should be as soon as possible." And so he then gave instructions for the attack to be just after 5 a.m.
Well, we opened up with a terrific bombardment to try and break through the wire. And then the gas was let loose. And our infantrymen, all clad in these Ku Klux Klan helmets, just with a little thing to put in their mouth, went off with fixed bayonets, and they had to charge. There was no loitering with those things. And what happened was that a lot of them thought that they were suffocating, and they pulled the helmets off. Unfortunately, just at that moment, the wind saw fit to change, not only change, but to start blow back, and the gas came back on our infantry.
Where this happened, the attack was checked at once. But elsewhere, Londoners and Scottish troops of the new armies stormed through the village of Luz as far as the German second line. The chance of a victory seemed good, and Haig was hopeful.
The enemy had no troops in his second line, which my plucky fellows reached and entered without opposition. Prisoners state the enemy was so hard put to it for troops that the officers' servants, fatigue men, etc., were pushed forward to hold their second line. If there had been even one division in reserve close up, we could have walked right through.
But the reserve divisions of the new army were at least 6 hours' march away in the rear, struggling towards Luz along congested roads.
We hadn't the faintest idea where we were going, no idea at all. And we sang the usual soldier songs, you know, Tipperary and all those sort of things, you know. We were thoroughly enjoying ourselves, you know. And we had the usual halts for, supposed to be 10 minutes in every hour. But actually, of course, we halted far more than that because of the chaos on the roads, traffic going up and down, ammunition limbers, ambulances, walking wounded. They said, though we were laughing and talking, eager to get at him sort of business, they said that you will laugh the other side of your ruddy phases when you get up there.
The next morning, these soldiers stumbled into their first battle, tired out, wet through, unfed, bewildered, against an enemy who had had time to draw breath, to bring up supports and throw up new barbed wire defenses. The new army men were in dense marching formation. They didn't know they were on a battlefield. They didn't know where the Germans were, or which way to go, or what to do. After a while, the exhausted, stunned regiments wavered, broke, and fled.
If you can imagine a flock of sheep lying down, sleeping in a field, they were as thick as that. Some of them were still alive, and they were crying out and begging for water and plucking at our legs as we went by. One hefty chap did grab me round both knees and held me. "Water, water," he said. But I was just going to take out the cork from my water bottle because I had a little left. But I was immediately hustled on by a man behind. "Get on," he said. "We're going to get lost in no man's land. Come on, get on." So it was a case where compassion had to give way to discipline. And I had to break away from this man and run to catch up with the men in front.
60,000 British troops fell during the 3 weeks that the battle dragged on. The blame for this failure was laid at the door of Field Marshal Sir John French for keeping the reserve divisions too far back for too long. French was removed from his command, and in December his place was taken by General Sir Douglas Haig. This battle marked the end of a phase of Allied hopes, for neither in Artois, beside the British, nor in more distant Champagne had the French armies found their expected victory. Joffre's attack was the largest single effort of the French army since the opening months of the war. 18 divisions were assembled in Artois, 35 in Champagne, more than the whole BEF. The French were supremely confident. Joffre told his men,
"You will carry all before you. In one bound, you will break through the enemy's defenses and reach his artillery. Give him neither rest nor pause until victory is gained. Forward with a good heart to free the soil of our fatherland, and in the name of justice and liberty,